Tonight's F1 news, Lewis Hamilton in love. I'm not talking Kim K. I'm talking Ferrari. I'm talking racing. And has his relationship with Carlo Santi unlocked Hamilton? Plus, we have warnings from Fred Vasseur to the whole Ferrari team. And Mercedes and Red Bull go legal with the FIA over Pierre Gasly's reinstated Monaco podium. And what was the real reason? It's a weird one. Why Nico Hulkenberg retired in Barcelona. Yes, this is your F1 news. I hope you like it daily because that's what you get here at F1 Grandstand. I'm Tony Craig. And if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, what are you thinking? Get it done. Come and join the community. And if you do enjoy the show, smash a big thumbs up on it at your earliest convenience. And when you do subscribe, you become part of the community, just like all of this lot. We've got Gemma, Queen of the Chat, in there. We've got Ron Parcella, Cal Cooler, Eric Venter's in the house, Gisette's in the house, Chris Clement's in the house. Oh, thank you, Chris in the house, direct from Florida. Definitely the best F1 platform on YouTube. Yes, Chris, you're the best advert we've ever had. Brilliant, absolutely true. Hey, Harry. Harry's in there as well. Ron White, Corinne. Sean's in there. Sean Meets is in there. Peter Arnold's in there as well. Richard Lawton's in the house. Maxine's in there as well. Come and get involved. This is the community you want to be part of. And yeah, obviously all the news today, literally a lot of it is Lewis Hamilton. Hey Amelia, I see you. Flaxton's in there as well. Thad and Ivor, F1 Fanatic, they're all coming in now. Jeremy. But yeah, today the news is full of Lewis Hamilton. Obviously it's all positive. But one of the things that I think really caught my eye, and it really is Lewis Hamilton and love. What's this about? Lewis Hamilton finding his love of racing again. He talks about it. And it's not just racing. He's always had this love of Ferrari. But what's the catalyst? Well, Lewis speaks very highly of one particular person, Carlo Santi. And Carlo Santi, you know, according to Lewis Hamilton, it's played a massive part in Hamilton's resurgence. His love for the game, his love for driving, his enjoyment of it all after going through a dark time last year. We all saw it. Riccardo Adami, what a horrible It's like, do you know what it was like? You ever been at a house party or a party and there's that couple, right? And they're always arguing and everyone feels a little uncomfortable because they talk to each other in a way which you go, you know, it's all very awkward. That's what it was like watching Lewis Hamilton and Riccardo Adami working together last season. It was so awkward. Even at the end of the season when Hamilton's going, thanks. It was a horrible season, obviously, but he's going, thank you, everyone, for all your hard work this season. We keep pushing. And Adami's just like, didn't answer him. Hamilton then, as he's bringing his car in at the end of his in-lap, was like, guys, did you hear me? Like, any response? And Adami goes, yeah, sorry, we were just talking. Basically saying, yeah, we're just ignoring you, mate. It was the most awkward feeling. And when Hamilton would ask for information or data during his Grand Prix, he'd be like, yeah, we're checking. Hamilton's like, what is going on? It just didn't work. It didn't work. And a divorce was the most appropriate action, right? But guess what? After that divorce, we're all going, Hamilton needs a permanent race engineer. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be the guy from McLaren, Cedric Grosjean, who he was promised, who was going to come in and be Hamilton's race engineer? And then we're waiting. And whilst that's going on, Ferrari had the great idea, didn't they? They said, hey, do you know what? We've got a pretty good race engineer in our stable. He hasn't done it for a while, since 2018, when it was Kimi Räikkönen's race engineer. Carlo Santi. Why don't we just ask Carlo to stand in? He's literally the temp in the Ferrari team. Temporarily, bringing in a temp to do one of the most important jobs in the team. But he's done it before. No one knew how it was going to work out. Lewis Hamilton's still going, you know, I probably could do with a permanent race engineer. How's this going to work out? He gets promised Cedric Grosjean. Grosjean, they have to wait for him because of his gardening leave at McLaren. Anyway, meantime, he's working with Carlo Santi. And guess what? It's starting to work. They didn't know each other before any of this, but a relationship's starting to form through pre-season. And then going into the season, they're getting closer. And we're hearing the conversations on the team radio. And as a viewer and a fan, we're going, hey, weird. That seems to be working out quite well. There seems to be a a really solid relationship for them. They seem to have worked out the optimum feedback loop between driver and race engineer during a new regulation cycle where it's never been so important to have a great relationship and feedback loop with your race engineer. It could have been car crash, couldn't it? It could have been carnage. It could have been an absolute disaster. But it starts to work out. And the first clues we get of it working out is, well, Cedric Grosjean finishes his gardening leave, comes to Ferrari. We get an announcement. We say, Cedric is all lined up to become Lewis Hamilton's race engineer at the Miami Grand Prix. And then it doesn't happen. We go, okay, wonder what's going on here. Cedric's probably thinking, what's going on here? But in defense of Ferrari, when they recruited Cedric Grosjean, they weren't recruiting him as Hamilton's race engineer. They were actually recruiting him as a performance engineer. They wanted him part of the team. It was only after the fallout with Adami, I think, then they thought, actually, Grosjean should maybe move into that role. So I don't think the initial approach for Cedric Grosjean was for that. I might stand corrected. You may know more than me, but I don't believe that was the case. So anyway, when they didn't make him Lewis's race engineer and Carlo stays in the role, we're thinking, hang on a minute, this is interesting. But we don't get an announcement from Ferrari, do we? We don't get an announcement that says, Carlo will be Lewis's race engineer moving forward. We just get the same thing. It's temporary basis. We're just letting things bed in and we'll make a decision later in the season. And now Lewis Hamilton brings Carlo Santi onto the podium for his first ever race win at Ferrari. That shows us just how much Lewis loves Carlo. And we're going to get into the article now. But that was just my 2 pennies worth, just bringing you up to speed on the whole race engineer debacle over at Ferrari. So Lewis Hamilton singles out unsung Ferrari hero who reignited his love for driving. Lewis Hamilton explained the importance of Ferrari race engineer Carlo Santi in his 2026 resurgence. Santi joined Hamilton on the podium as he celebrated his first win for the team at the Barcelona Catalunya Grand Prix on Sunday. Like I just said, the original plan was for Santi to carry out the role for a few races, then hand over to Cedric Grosjean, who was basically, they say, acclimatizing after joining from McLaren. But Hamilton, apparently, according to this article, Hamilton decided to stick with Santi. Obviously, Santi would have had to decide to stick with Hamilton as well, as they formed an immediate connection. He even called him the Italian Bono. Do you remember that? We talked about it on the show. A reference to longtime Mercedes right-hand man, Pete Bonington, who, as we know, is Kimi Antonelli's race engineer now. But they had the most successful partnership in Formula One history. Driver race engineer partnership, 6 world championships together. So Santi is a kind of a wild card because he hadn't been a lead race engineer since Kimi Räikkönen left in 2018, like I said before. So it was a big decision from Vasseur, really. It's a risk, isn't it? You know, you're thinking, God, I have to get rid of Adami because it doesn't work. And then he move him out to be head of the young driver program or something just away from the main team. But they obviously need someone to step into the role. And Vasseur took the gamble because I guess it was Vasseur that sort of said, hey, I know you don't know Carlo, but here's your guy. And it worked out well so far. And you've got to think that Fred Vasseur again, if that was a Fred decision, tick for Fred. Another tick for Fred. It's a good decision. Fred's making some good decisions in 26 at the moment. But this is what Hamilton said. Yeah, it was great to have him up here talking about Carlo being on the podium with him. I think him substituting this year, jumping in and diving in deep with me, we didn't know each other. We'd never spoken and I didn't know anything about him. We met and I think we got on straight away, but it's great to be able to connect with an engineer other than what I used to have. I had it for such a long time and then you lose that feeling because Bono's now doing it with Kimi. It's really great to be able to share that experience with him on that stage. You could tell it's hard for him, talking about Carlo, to express his emotion. He's just smiley and I'm giving him these big hugs and pulling him in, saying thank you. I like to think that this has probably reignited the love that he has for being an engineer, as he has done for me as a driver. I mean, it's a love fest. It's a bromance, and it's working out, isn't it? You know, and I love it, actually. I mean, I'm feeling the love. I'm feeling the love on the behalf of the both of them. I think we've got some super chats in. Let me get to it. But yeah, I'm feeling the love. Giuseppe's in with the super chat. Hamilton has his Italian Bono. A pretty good car and a believing team. He finally is comfortable and is leading Ferrari to move forward into the 2026 season. I couldn't have said it better, Giuseppe. Couldn't have said it better. I think tick, tick, tick on all those things. He's got his Italian Bono. The car's looking better and better. Everyone else, by the way, on the grid, all the reports saying they've improved that chassis again. They've managed to finesse those upgrades that didn't work in Miami. And now everyone's saying, yeah, the Ferrari chassis is the best that they can tell. Great through the medium speed corners, proven in Barcelona. Great through the high speed corners, proven in Barcelona. Great through the slow speed corners, proven in Monaco. It's just not very bloody quick down the straights, is it? That's the issue. That's Ferrari's biggest problem. It's just not quick enough down the straights. But they're working on that. They've got the additional upgrade opportunities for the power unit. And when they roll those out, if Ferrari get that right, and they can find 40 horsepower, I think they could dominate. I think they could be the dominant car. Obviously, there's a slight spanner in the works that Mercedes have also got an additional upgrade opportunity for their power unit as well. That might make things a little more tricky. But, you know, it was, I just think it was nice that Lewis Hamilton has given credit. And Carlo Santi, the one thing that's quite obvious about him is a very humble guy. And Lewis said, you know, he's not sort of that emotional, and he's bringing him in for hugs and cuddles and saying, oh, you know, we did it. And I think, do you know what, though? When you think about the role of a race engineer, when you hear Carlo Santi over the team radio, he doesn't get too emotional, did he? He doesn't. But he did give several messages of encouragement to Hamilton whilst he was leading the race in Barcelona. And I thought they were just perfect. The way he wasn't over-egging the pudding. It was just a sentence of, we've got this, sort of, but calm, cool, collected. So the fact that Carlo Santi may not be really, you know, flamboyant character is probably really good. He's an engineer. You know, engineers are methodical, logical, mathematical, and that's who you want in your ear. So when they're trying to celebrate and Hamilton's, you know, trying to get them all excited and say thank you, I get it. I do get it. And what I do like is, if you see the thumbnail, if you look closely at the thumbnail today's thumbnail on this show, the picture is Carlo Santi like celebrating. He's got his tongue out, but behind him, Lewis Hamilton's pouring the champagne on him, and you should see the smile on Hamilton's face, like he's genuinely grateful. And when you think about the other thing that we need to talk about, which they haven't talked about in F1 Oversteer in the article, and they've missed a trick here. If you think about the way Hamilton's changed his preparation going into every Grand Prix, what did he tell us? We talked about it on the show. The big change is he's come off the simulator and he's not sitting at home drinking a cup of tea and not doing the work. What he said is, yes, I'm not doing simulator work to prepare for the Grand Prix. What I'm now doing is I'm working with my number two, Carlo Santi, where we crunch numbers. We look at the data, the car data. It's going to look like zeros and ones to most of us, but him and his race engineer look at the data and then they work out an action plan to prep for the race just from the data. Old school, baby. And it's working for them. So they're working together more than ever. And I'm not saying they don't work together when he's on the simulator. Well, the simulator wasn't working for Hamilton. What a brave decision. How many people would have said, if it hadn't worked out and Hamilton was slower than Leclerc, you know, just having bad Grand Prix when he decided to not use a simulator anymore, everyone would go, you're an idiot. Yeah, that's a stupid decision not using a simulator. But now it's working out. No one's really mentioned it in the press. What a brave decision. And what a brave decision from Ferrari to allow him to say, I'm not doing the simulator work. But going back to the Carlo Santi relationship, it doesn't mean he's just replaced the simulator work with being able to look at the data from the cars, the zeros and ones, interpret that data on what he needs to do with the car setup and his driving style for the Grand Prix. And I think that's bloody remarkable. It's old school as it gets. And Carlo Santi's an old school race engineer. You know, he was back in 2018. So it just seems like such a great relationship and a great marriage, doesn't it, for the two of them? I'm really excited for him. I'm over the moon. And I think the fact that he's credited Carlo Santi. So yes, the new love affair of Lewis Hamilton, it's not Kim K, it's Carlo Santi, everybody. That's the big reveal. Him and I believe they're setting a wedding date very soon. But no, that's the big bromance, and it's working really well. And long may it continue. I hope they announce Carlo Santi as Lewis's long-term race engineer. I mean, I think it'd be good for both of them. And Lewis's final sentence there, which was, "I hope I've reignited Carlo's love for being a race engineer again, as he has done for my love for being a driver," because that's the only reason why I could think why Carlo wanted to do it on a temporary basis, and he wasn't keen to commit himself. Maybe he was a bit like, you know, lost his love for doing that particular role, and maybe all of this is like two old school guys finding their, you know, resurgence of their second wave of success, you know. Anyway, that's my little feel-good story. I'm really pleased for Lewis, and I'm really pleased that relationship's working out really well. But on a slightly more negative note, it's not that negative, but Fred Vasseur has come out and said, with his warnings, boo, Fred, boo. Let people enjoy the success. Let Ferrari enjoy the success. Let Hamilton enjoy the success. Let Santi enjoy the success. But this is what Fred says. He warns Ferrari about making a huge mistake after Lewis Hamilton's first win. Fred Vasseur has warned the team that they cannot get carried away with the victory. Obviously, Hamilton's now the 6th oldest F1 winner after clinching his maiden victory in Barcelona. For Ferrari. And Fred says Ferrari will make a huge mistake if they get carried away with Lewis Hamilton's Barcelona win. What I liked about it as well, and they talk about it in this article, every team in the paddock applauded Hamilton following his win. It symbolised like the end of his struggles with Ferrari. And I think also at the end of some of his self-doubts that it was creeping in last season, and everybody recognised it was a real moment. Yes, he's won 106 Grand Prix, but this one was special. He's come through such adversity, so the whole paddock sort of recognised it's a big moment for him and the team. Max Verstappen even congratulated Hamilton on his victory. But Fred Vasseur was one that was super proud. He was super proud. And speaking to F1 TV after the race, Vasseur basically said, like, look, the driver was outstanding. He said, yes, it's a good feeling, said Vasseur. We had 1 year and a half with ups and downs. Well, that's ups and downs is one way of putting it, Fred. A lot of downs last year. And to win today, and on the top of it, to have the race in control, because I think he was able to fight yesterday for the pole. And today, he was managing the situation very well. As soon as we were adjusting the strategy, Lewis was pushing more or less as needed. And he was absolutely outstanding today. And Nico Rosberg chimed in. Nico Rosberg, nemesis of Lewis Hamilton and teammate at Mercedes. This is what Nico said. Nico Rosberg thinks that Hamilton has dethroned Charles Leclerc as the king of Ferrari. I mean, that's a pretty bold. I mean, maybe for the last few races, Charles Leclerc's still golden boy, right? He is still golden boy. But yeah, so what Fred wanted to say, don't get carried away. You can't think like they are world champions and the approach in Barcelona must be the same as the next race in Austria. It's like, listen, you got to keep focused. And he's right about this, and that is his job as team principal. He was also asked, have you seen a difference in Hamilton? And this is what Vasseur said. He said, honestly, no. I think that the approach of Lewis was consistent from the beginning. He's always been fully committed, fully convinced, and he's always pushing everybody. And we need to have this kind of energy, and it's paying off today. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because last year, he was pushing everybody in the team. The problem he had when he was giving them dossiers of from being brand new eyes in the team saying, hey, I can see problems here, from how we're producing our performance upgrades, how we're running our pit side strategies. And he gave a whole dossier of like, here's some improvements from my experience at a different team, here's what you could do, and pushing the team. And what happened? The whole bloody team pushed back. They didn't like it. It rocked it. Nobody likes being told what to do, but Hamilton got through that. The team got through that. I mean, even John Elkann last year was saying, look, stop doing that, drivers. Like, shut up and drive. We don't want your input. We're Ferrari. We know what we're doing here. Well, you don't. You haven't won for 20 years, so relax yourself and be open to constructive feedback, which may just help. And a 7-time world champion offering constructive feedback at the cost of alienating the team, thinking this new team might not like me, he's obviously got good reason. He obviously believes what he's doing is trying to help. So sometimes what you got to do is put your egos to one side and listen, right? I think if we've all learned something, that's one of the things maybe Ferrari have learned. But he also said this, but we also have to stay calm. This is what Fred said. It's not that last week we were unaware and today we are world champion. It will be a huge mistake. It means that we need to keep Austria exactly with the same approach as Barcelona. And that is what we will do. So I get it. I can tell Fred's excited. I can tell he's delighted for Hamilton because within that result on Sunday, Fred Vasseur gets a level of, confirmation that his decisions are working out. You got to remember, Fred was the guy that brought Lewis in. It was Fred that had the relationship with Lewis from years gone by. He's the one that said to the team, yeah, let's spend all the money bringing Lewis Hamilton in the twilight years of his career, and he can help this team. He can help this team mold into something better. He can help build a stronger, better team. And I think Fred put his neck on the chopping block with that choice. And I think last year, when it wasn't working out for Hamilton, I think Fred's neck was on the chopping block, and I think it was close to being cut right off. I think the guillotine was just, the sword of Damocles was just dangling right above his neck, if I'm honest. But this season, Fred's being, he's been proved right so far. He's been proved right that the car he's bringing in 26 was going to be better than 25. He's being proved right over the last 3 races that Hamilton was quite possibly the right choice. And if it's true what Fred said about Hamilton's input in the development of the 26 car, Fred deserves a lot of credit. And like I said, he put his neck on the chopping block, didn't he? And he deserves, in my opinion, a lot of the credit. So anyway, so he's given a warning, but yeah, that's the situation. That is the situation. But yeah, Viva, Forza Ferrari. Next up, what's going on? Mercedes. This is all getting a bit litigious. So Mercedes and Red Bull have decided to put in their protests against the Pierre Gasly reinstatement of his podium in Monaco. We knew it was coming, didn't we? Oh, hang on, we've got another super chat. Just in with the super chat. Toto knows that Mercedes lead days are numbered. He probably needs to go back to anger management classes. Santi is exactly what Lewis needs. Yes, Gisette. It's true. I think Toto, it was quite obvious while you mentioned Toto that at the end of the Grand Prix, where they got him in the pit for a chat with Sky Sports, there was a different Toto. Toto was absolutely clear in expressing that now Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari are a threat to not only the driver championship, but also to the constructor championship. And when asked about team orders for the drivers, he said, now we have to consider it. He said, today we let the drivers race and it cost us against Hamilton. We allowed Hamilton to just tootle off into the sunset. And it was costing us a second a lap by allowing our drivers to race. And we need to discuss this with the drivers. And what he's basically saying without saying it is, I'm not going to let that happen anymore. Toto's about Mercedes. He's not about the individual drivers. Toto is about the 2,500 people that make up the team. He's about Mercedes winning the constructors. That's his most important task, because if the team win the constructors, everyone in all the people that make up the team get bonuses. It's their livelihood. It's important, and he's drumming that home. Mercedes first. So I don't know what that means for George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, and I don't know whether these team orders are going to come in for specific circumstances where if there is a threat from a third party, another driver, and it's not just the two Mercedes racing each other with a 60-second gap between them and everybody else. If there's another driver closing in, then maybe team orders will play a part, and they will play a part. And I think Toto made it clear. He said it without saying it. So yeah, it's a good point that you said. Thank you very much for your super chat. By the way, if you want to get super chats in, guaranteed to be read out live on air. Why would you put a super chat in? It's so you can ask a question, you can share an opinion, you can just back your team, or just join in with the show or support the show. Every single super chat guaranteed to be read out live on air. But you don't have to. You can it's just there if you need it, if you want to. So this is what Toto's done. A Mercedes. So Mercedes seek right of review over George Russell's Monaco Grand Prix penalty. Mercedes want to explore the possibility of improving George Russell's result. And we know what happened. I've gone over it a lot of times. George Russell was running P4. He got a speeding penalty, which actually shouldn't have been a speeding penalty, just like Oscar Piastri, Pierre Gasly, Franco Colapinto, and who was the other one? They got a speeding penalty. Lewis Hamilton. And none of those speeding penalties should have been valid, because Formula One management group, who are responsible for the timing loops in the pit lanes, said, we made an error. We put them in the wrong place. We made them too short. So it just meant that those speeding penalties should all be rescinded. The problem was George got a speeding penalty during the race. And the rules say that when the next available opportunity, you've got to execute that 5-second penalty. He didn't do that. He came into the pits, didn't execute the 5-second penalty. Then they said, right, you got to come and do a drive-through penalty, which cost him 20 seconds. So it was all very complicated. So then George then finishes P12 or 30 out of the points, 12 or 13, 0 points, where he would have finished P4 without having to serve that drive-through. Anyway, Mercedes want to see if they can. Now Gasly's been. We found all this new information out, and it was evidence that the FOM supplied that Pierre Gasly's appeal's been upheld, and he got his penalties rescinded, and he got his podium back, P3. It's opened up a real can of worms, because George Russell's lost all the points, right? He's lost a lot of points. He should have been finishing P4. So anyway, we know that Toto Wolff was talking to his legal team in Barcelona, and this is what's happening. Those two factors prompted Mercedes to request a right of review for Russell's case as well. Wolff's team argues that both the admission that the measurements were incorrect and the fact that Gasly's penalty was overturned constitute new evidence that was not available at the time of the race, and therefore at the time Russell was penalised. And that's the qualifying criteria for a right to review. There needs to be new information that wasn't available for the stewards at the time the penalties were given out. So now Wolff has got new evidence. He goes, hey, look at this. I've got some new evidence here. We should be able to get a right to review as well, because this new evidence wasn't available to the stewards at the time. And on the Gasly thing, this is what he said. Yes, we've asked for a right of review because we just simply want to sit on the table when decisions are being made, Wolff said. Mercedes confirmed on Monday morning today that the process has indeed been initiated, something the FIA have also confirmed. No official FIA document has been issued yet, as several documents still need to be submitted by the team before the case can formally begin. So with the right of review, Mercedes hope that they just secure a seat at the table, as Wolff described it, while also seeking further clarification from the stewards on the matter. So what does that mean? I don't think Wolff expects that George Russell is suddenly going to be handed 20 seconds off his finishing time, which gives him P4 in the championship. I think this is more about proving a point. I think this is more about these mistakes can't happen. I think this is more about saying, look, we have to, FOM have held their hands up, and we have been punished for this unfairly. moving forward, we want to have a seat at the table. And that seat at the table means, I believe what they're talking about is during race weekends, there needs to be a mechanism where these challenges can happen in the race, right? So where George, to his credit, before all of the shenanigans happened, he did say on the team radio, I wasn't speeding, we'll sort it out after the race. They didn't, that's what George said on a passing radio comment. Like, nothing happened with that, but he did call it. And now I think Toto's probably saying, well, if there is a situation where we think we're not speeding, you think we are, we should have been able to refuse the drive-through penalty. And I think that's what it comes down to. And I don't know how that works, because in a situation, you can't just start refusing the race director when he says, orders you in to do a drive-through penalty, and you don't do it, because the race director could just black flag you and go, right, you're off. Basically, you're sent off, you're not finishing the race. So I don't know how that mechanism could work, but I do think there needs to be some sort of mechanism that's almost like an instant judgment. I don't know what it is, but he wants a seat at the table to discuss it. And I think that's all he's hoping for. Yes, Peter Pinnock, thanks for your super chat, but there's no message in there. There's no message in your super chat, Patrick. I can see it though. So yeah, I mean, that's what Mercedes want, but it's not just Mercedes, is it? They're not the only ones, because Red Bull have raised their own concern as well. So Red Bull set for appeal over Pierre Gasly's controversy as a matter of principle. And this is what I'm saying. So the teams have been affected, because Red Bull, if you listen to Flavio Briatore, Red Bull, they've been holding on to Isaac Hadjar's P3 trophy. So Flavio Briatore said in Barcelona, we need to get the trophy from Red Bull, because Pierre Gasly, we need that third place trophy. Alpine's podium, their first podium of the year. And Red Bull have not wanted to give that trophy back. So Red Bull are now appealing over Pierre Gasly's reinstatement of his P3 in Monaco. And this is what Laurent McKees had to say. So Red Bull signalled their intentions to appeal the verdict, but did not formally trigger the process with a 96... Okay, let me start again. So, because... What Red Bull have said is, because when they found out that the Pierre Gasly had been reinstated for the Monaco Grand Prix, from the clock starts running when they find out that verdict's come in, what Red Bull want to do is protest that verdict. So the clock starts from that moment. They've got 96 hours to put in a protest, because that's a new verdict. Red Bull go, hang on, I don't like that verdict. We've got 96 hours to put our protest in. So Red Bull said, we are going to do it, and we're going to do it within the 96-hour window. That window ends Tuesday, June 16th, tomorrow. Further information as a matter of principle for the rest of the Grand Prix racing is what Laurent McKees wants. And what he said was, over the week, he said, look, we've not yet submitted in the full appeal. We've got a bit more time to do that, but we will. And this is what he said. But we think it's more so a matter of principle for the goodness of the sport, in order for the sport to get the right clarity on how we go about non-appealable penalties during the race and getting the right results at the end of the race. No measurement system is perfect. There is not one single way to measure the speed, and they are all wrong. However, we have been working with that measurement system for a very high number of years. It was the same as the day before, the same as on Friday, the same as the previous years, and we have all adapted to it. And 17 or 18 cars have managed to be legal. So we just need to make sure that as a sport, we have a solid enough approach so that moving forward, we get the right clarity to the fans and the competitors. So what McKees' problem with it is, he said, look, these guys got their speeding penalties on race day, but we had Friday practice, FP1, FP2, FP3, and then we have qualifying, and then we have race day. We've got all those sessions. The speeding timing loop doesn't change, right? So you can calibrate your car and your settings to the settings of, you know, that pit lane speed limit. And that's what he's saying. And 17 or 18 cars did that. He said no timing equipment is perfect. So what we have to do is we go, it's the same for everybody. And on day one, Friday, we make sure that we're not speeding in the pit lane. And sometimes you might have to knock half a kilometre an hour off just to make sure. You might think it's set at 60 kilometres an hour for your pit limiter, but they set it at 59.5 to make sure. And 17 or 18 teams did do that. And that's what his argument is. He said just because these other guys didn't and they perhaps were taking a short line, he's not buying the verdict. And he's got a point. And the other point is what I said before. He thinks that we need to have more of a mechanism during the actual race where we can, deal with these penalties before it actually ruins the entire race result, because we can't unpick it afterwards. So that's what he's saying. He wants clarity moving forward, which does make sense. I'm going to come and catch up what some of you guys are saying. Yes. Corinne says, Red Bull playing RB games. Good night. Red Bull is the most powerful. Reese Cup says, nice. I got experience championship parade. Oh, you saw the championship parade in Vegas with the Golden Knights won the NHL. Brilliant. Like that, Reese Cup. More worm. They need to appeal the ICE only as the baseline for the entire PU. Makes no sense. All the teams are in agreement with that, More worm. Yeah, everybody's said, even Toto Wolff has said, and he's benefited from the way they measure the ICE for the ADUOs. Even Toto Wolff, to his credit, said, look, we're getting an additional upgrade opportunity here because our ICE is down on power compared to Red Bull. But we do need to factor in the other 50%, which is the battery system. I think all teams agree. They still want to have a mechanism for because what the ADUO is ultimately is a catch-up mechanism. So the sport remains interesting for the fans, so we don't get a 2000 situation like we had in 2014 where Mercedes are dominant for 5 years with the V6 era. Everybody wants the sports to be closer and we want people to catch up, so we do want that mechanism, and that's what it was designed for. But you can't have a mechanism that only improves half of the power unit. It makes no sense, because Mercedes know they've got the better full power unit, but obviously Red Bull having the stronger ICE. Or everyone's in agreement with that one. Everyone's in agreement with that one, more. I mean, they do. And I think they will find a mechanism. I mean, God knows how and what and how it works, because I'm sure they can test the battery systems somehow. The engines are different. They've all got these sensors on, and it's quite simple for them to monitor power output of an engine. I'm guessing there's some digital solution for the battery side. They'll find one, I'm sure. But it's a good point. Hey, Waylon, I see you, buddy. Linda Hawkins in the house. If anyone's going to sandbag, let it be Ferrari. They need every advantage they can get. John Boy's in the house. Yes, go Ferrari. Thank you very much, Lewis. Yes, John Boy. Harry Brown. Nobody's talking about fuel. No, nobody's talking about fuel. And I think that's because most of us don't bloody understand it. Honestly, the fuel conversation, I don't get it. You need to be a chemical engineer. I don't understand the difference between the Aramco fuel, the Shell fuel, the Petronas fuel. I know that some are biofuels, some are synthetic fuels, but I don't understand how the regulations control that. I know that Petronas was saying that our fuel's worth 20 horsepower, an extra 20 horsepower. Honestly, it's just a bit of my pay grade. When it comes to the chemical compound of the fuel being used, I don't truly understand it, and I think a lot of fans, if they're honest, don't understand it. We're only just getting our head around, how the power units are working and how the batteries are working. And the fuel's a whole new conversation. We do need to catch up on it, but no one seems to know. No, unless you're talking to a chemical engineer at Shell, which I'd love, by the way. If anyone you know a chemical engineer at Shell, Petronas, who understand Aramco, any of them, get them on the show, because I think we could all appreciate somebody giving us a quick schooling on the difference in the fuels. Chip oil, old geezer says. Yeah, it's funny. Reese Cup in the house as well. Good to see so many in the chat. And by the way, speaking of that, if you're brand new, this is a great time to Subscribe to the channel. Come and join our grid. You're very, very welcome here. We have a brilliant community. We're live every night, 7:30 GMT with the news. And if you're watching right now, you understand the format. What happens is I report the news. We then discuss it as a community together. We can call BS on it. If it's BS, we can join up the dots. But the main thing is that we react to the news on a daily basis, but we do it as a community. And also, of course, we have the Grand Prix watch-longs every race weekend. Breaking news as well throughout the day. So if you are a Formula One fan and you want a community which is fully inclusive, whether you're a 50-year OG of the sport, whether you're a chemical engineer or a race engineer, we've got them all, definitely race engineers, come and join us. And if you're brand new to the sport, it's a great place to hang out as well. We don't sneer at anybody. And Formula One, one of my biggest complaints about Formula One sometimes, it can be a bit elitist. I find that sometimes people look down the nose at new people. Oh, you didn't know that? You didn't know that Schumacher won in 2006 or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. And we don't do that here. Like, we don't sneer at anybody. Everyone's welcome, and we just want to build the most positive environment for everyone to enjoy this sport. So you're very welcome. Come and join the grid. Subscribe to the channel. You are very, very welcome here. Next story. Okay. Red Bull have got an internal problem, apparently, according to Nico Rosberg. This is... I'm going to get your thought on this, actually. This will be the first poll of the night. Yes! Mad J-Ax in there. It's either Kim K or Santi or even both. I think he's getting married to Carlo Santi. I think he'd have more luck. Oh, so Gareth's in the house with some wisdom. It's all to do with thermal efficiency of the fuel. Maybe Gareth needs to. If you're a chemical engineer, Gareth, we might have to get you on the show, buddy. We might have to get you on the show to talk about the different compounds and how they actually work. Yeah. So Red Bull's internal problem. Nico Rosberg has heard about significant internal problems at Red Bull since Adrian Newey left. This is what Nico had to say. Nico Rosberg feels Red Bull can't keep up without Adrian Newey. Start of new regulations, Red Bull have dropped out of title contention altogether. After 7 races, Verstappen is 7th in the standings, 101 points behind championship leader Kimi Antonelli. He's suffered with unreliability, and yeah, he has shown some pace in Monaco, but unreliability has been the biggest problem. The car was a bag of spanners at the start of the season, but they have seemed to have solved the steering feel issue. Those upgrades have brought them out. We have done bits, to be honest. The FIA have recently ruled that Red Bull have got the best ice, and while that verdict's been challenged, it's put pressure on their technical director, Pierre Wack, and the chassis department. Well, yeah, of course it has. You've got the best IC. You've got to deliver on the chassis. But this is what Nico Rosberg said talking to Sky Sports F1. I've heard internally that it really was a significant step change once Adrian Newey left, because Adrian was so deep in the details. Even at the racetrack, during the race weekends, on vehicle dynamics and everything, suddenly is gone, and they're still struggling to find that groove again, to fight back to their greatness. The development rate this year, the others are developing faster. I don't know if that's actually true. I think Red Bull developed really quickly at the start of this year from where they started to where they came to in Monaco. Yes, he didn't finish the race, but he put that Red Bull on the front row within a couple of hundredths of Kimi Antonelli. So I'm not 100%, I don't 100% agree with Nico on that. And there's a couple of other things I don't agree with either, but we'll come to those in a minute. He said they're struggling, not a great situation now for them. So this is what I'd say about Nico's comments. I do like Nico Rosberg, but I'm going to pull him up on a couple of these things. Do I think Red Bull are struggling since key personnel have left? Yes. Do I think it's all Adrian Newey's door? No. I think Helmut Marko leaving's had an effect. I know, that's crazy. You've all heard me talk about the Dark Lord Helmut Marko. I thought he might have been a hindrance, but actually I actually think him leaving Red Bull, whether you like him or not, I actually think he was probably helping that team, truthfully. He made some bad decisions before he left. Some weird comments that were probably inappropriate in this day, well, which were inappropriate this day and age. But do I think he was part of the dream team? Yeah, him, Horner, Newey, Wheatley, Craig Skinner, Rob Marshall. And those are the 2 names I want to bring up, because Newey left. He wasn't there last season, but the car developed nicely towards the end of the season when Max Verstappen was on a driver title charge, didn't they? They did keep bringing upgrades and it was doing okay. And even this season, they have brought They have upgraded the car quite successfully. So, but what I would say is they lost Craig Skinner, chief designer, at the start of this year. And the big loss, I think, as well, they lost Rob Marshall in 24. And we all know, well, before 24, actually. When did Rob go? Rob Marshall left in, yeah, it was 24. He joined McLaren in 24. So, and then what happens? McLaren win the Constructors in 24 and 25. So it's not, I don't think he's right pinpointing it on Newey. Do I think Newey's had an amazing effect at Red Bull over the glory years? Yes. But I think it's more than that. I think Red Bull, Newey is obviously a loss. Wheatley was a loss. Horner was a loss. Marco was a loss. Craig Skinner was a loss. Rob Marshall was a loss. Will Courtney was a loss. Even some of the, the mechanics, you got Lee Stevenson, Matt Cawler. Lee Stevenson's got promoted at Audi. He's now Audi team manager. He was, he was like chief mechanic. Matt Cawler, like they've lost a lot of good people, and that's, I think, is affecting Red Bull. They need to aggressively try and replace those people, not just from Racing Bulls. So I get what Nico's saying. I just don't think it's all on Adrian Newey. I've got a super chat from Patrick Pinnock. Toto needs to fix his fudging car. Yeah, classic Horner. Classic Horner. Yeah, Jeremy said he's jumped on it as well. Just see Jeremy's comment in the chat. Skinner leaving probably did it. Craig Skinner, he was like a protege, wasn't he? I mean, Skinner, Marshall and Newey, when you think about it, all great at what they did. And I think Marshall and Skinner would have learned a lot from Newey. So when you lose those three, I mean, that's a huge loss. A huge loss. So, yes, Nico putting it all on Newey's door, no. Because I also think when you factor in Newey what he's doing over at Aston Martin, I'm not saying he's doing it alone, but he hasn't got Craig Skinner with him. He's not got Rob Marshall with him. I'm sure Adrian Newey is the brains that you want to follow, but he's not doing it yet, is he? He will do it. He's still a GOAT. He will make it work at Aston Martin eventually, hopefully by the end of this year. But I just don't think it's all on Newey's shoulders, the problems at Red Bull. That's just my thought. Now, final story of the night. Hulkenberg's weird retirement. This is wild, right? Check this out. And I want to know what you think about this. So the reason behind Nico Hulkenberg's retirement in Barcelona. It's such a shame for Audi. It really is such a shame for Audi because Audi were having a really strong Barcelona Grand Prix race weekend. Audi, top 10 through practice. Qualifying, Nico Hulkenberg, top 10. He was running P9, doing really well. And this is the wild reason behind Nico Hulkenberg's Barcelona GP retirement. It turns out that Liam Lawson had put a wheel on the gravel on turn 12, flung a load of the gravel into Hulkenberg's Audi, causing a smashed mirror, a pierced nose cone, but crucially, the gravel hitting the car and probably going in the side pods and entering the car, pulled the emergency trigger, according to Hulkenberg, causing terminal damage. It just killed the car and totally switched it off. He said, the car was dead, and then obviously I just coasted into the pit lane. There was nothing left. It was completely shut down. What a wacky incident. And he was on course for his first points finish of the 26 campaign. So basically, just because he was following behind Liam Lawson, gravel kicked up from turn 12, got into the side pods, I'm guessing, and shut the car down. I mean, is this a bug in the new 26 cars? Is there a weakness there? Should they be able to withstand a little bit of gravel flying in and not turning it off? I'm not saying it shouldn't cause a performance problem. We've seen in the past drivers come into the pits and the mechanics pulling out grass out of the side pods because it's causing overheating, it's stopping the airflow through to cool the engine. But gravel's obviously been kicked up and causing damage. Whether it's, I don't know exactly what the damage was, but it may cause a terminal failure. Something to think about, though, isn't it? Whether these cars are that fragile. But speaking after his more on his retirement, Hulkenberg said, "I've never seen or heard about this, to be honest, in my career. Never. Very unlucky. Strange, the timing of that. When you see what happened at the end, 2 cars dropping out. I don't know. It's somehow the racing god doesn't want us to score yet," is what he said. And then Lawson, again, having a great season so far. Strong Barcelona weekend, scoring good points again. He was unaware of the situation, so he was asked about it. And he was told that, yeah, your gravel, son, Lawson, from turn 12, is what caused Hulkenberg's retirement. And Lawson said, "You serious? No way. That's so unfortunate. Obviously, I had no idea. And if I could perfectly aim for something like that, but I had no idea. I just knew that he dropped out." So Lawson obviously not doing it on purpose, but well aware of the situation. I don't know. I don't know whether these cars are a little bit fragile. Maybe they'll become a little bit more robust. Well, they should become more robust as we get further into the regulation cycle. We've seen a few weird sort of failures, haven't we? No more weird than the Mercedes failures. Kimi Antonelli's car just stopping. George Russell's car stopping in Canada. Obviously, Antonelli's in Barcelona. We've seen we've seen a few weird battery incidents. So, I mean, Audi, we've seen them set on fire in qualifying as well, haven't we? We saw that a couple of times. So, yeah, I think the cars will get more robust throughout the season. But yeah, interesting retirement for poor Nico Hulkenberg, who's doing so well. Audi have looked really strong, actually, for the last couple of Grand Prix. I'm expecting Audi to really be challenging for points regularly moving forward in this season. Maybe even a podium by the end of the season if we get the ultimate set of circumstances in a Grand Prix. Maybe a wet race, maybe a crazy racing incident, safety car, some good pit decisions, a bit of luck on their side. But they are really challenging Racing Bulls and Alpine now. They're the 3, the best of the rest. They're the 3. They're the ones fighting it out for the title of best of the rest right now. Haas have dropped off. Aston Martin are nowhere. Williams are still nowhere, in my opinion. They do score the odd point if they'll, but it's through luck rather than ability and performance of the car. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Hulkenberg gravel shutdown. So that's it. Thank you so much to everybody. If you are brand new, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Do come and join us. Subscribe to the channel. You're very welcome here. We're back tomorrow, 7:30 GMT, for more Formula One news. Thank you so much for all your super chats. Thank you so much for liking the videos, watching the videos, telling your friends. Honestly, the community is growing every single day. It's a real pleasure to be part of it. Thanks again. Thanks so much. And if you're watching on replay, do get in the comments. I do read every single comment. Have your say on any of the topics from tonight's show. And I'll also leave a couple of videos below me here as well that you might enjoy. Enjoy the rest of your evening. But for now,